Welcome first-time listeners and returners to the Sports Deli, where we believe that less is more. LESS stands for leadership, equality, empowerment, empathy, education, social injustice, suicide prevention, sports, and solutions. We talk a lot about white privilege, we want to mobilize, and pay it forward. The Sports Deli is sponsored by SportRx. You can give them a call at 888-831-5817 or find them online at sportrx.com. SportRx is the leader in sport prescription eyewear. They are used by skiers and snowboarders and Major League Baseball players. People all over the world use SportRx, and don't forget to enter the code DELI10 at checkout for your special 10% discount. And now a little bit about your two co-hosts, Dr. J and myself, Hootie Hoot. Dr. J is a sports junkie. He loves politics. His dad was a civil rights lawyer. His mom worked for the government. He's working on his EDD in higher education. He's got his master's degree from the University of South Carolina. He once won third place as a freshman at the University of Kentucky in a Rick Pitino lookalike contest. He loves golf. He's played in Scotland, Mexico, Spain, the United States, and he's played Torrey Pines, the Ocean Course, Pebble Beach, and Doral. He loves the All-American at Waffle House and will, once the pandemic is over, commandeer a booth at night at Waffle House and be broadcasting live right here in the Sports Deli. As for myself, Hootie Hoot, I'm from Detroit. I went to Oak Park High School. I love my Detroit teams. Loved my friends growing up on Leslie. I played 5 sports in high school. I got cut 3 times, once in middle school, high school, and in college. And the next year I made the team every single time because I was motivated and so mad that I got cut the previous year. I played JV on the basketball and baseball teams as a junior, but I didn't care because I just wanted to play. And then the next year as a senior, I made the varsity in both baseball and basketball. I give a lot of thanks and big credit and kudos to my youth coaches, Coach Clairfelt, Mr. Emanuel, Richard Maltz, Jeff Feig, Mr. Sternberg, Coach Golding. All played huge parts in my upbringing and my success. And I played 4 years of college basketball and 1 year of intercollegiate tennis. I played on the first team in the history of Goucher College in the sport of basketball. I was the first MVP in the history of the men's basketball program. I still hold a record where I made 5 out of 6 three-pointers in a game, good for 83%, a single game high, still some 30-plus years later. I went to Frostburg State and learned under the tutelage and mentorship of Oscar Lewis, a phenomenal coach. I've coached men's and women's college basketball for 23 years. I've sent dozens of players to the NCAA and NAIA levels, including 11 to the Division I level. I'm also a professional basketball skills trainer, and I give private lessons in both tennis and golf. I currently coach at the Preuss School in San Diego. It's a low-income first-generation high school in the sport of girls basketball. I have a beautiful, amazing, incredible daughter. I'm a life coach. My mom has been an inspiration to me and a huge support system during all my ups and downs in my life. Unlike John, I will not be commandeering a booth at the Waffle House once the pandemic is over, but at my favorite restaurant, the Crab Hut, right here in San Diego. And now, back to the Sports Deli. We're so honored on this 14th day of Women's History Month, roughly 34 days away from the WNBA draft, a few days away from the start of March Madness, and roughly 2 months away from the WNBA's historic 25th season, to be joined by the head coach of the Atlanta Dream, Nicki Collen. She shares a birthday with Dennis Rodman, Stephen Colbert, and Stevie Wonder. She grew up in the basketball-crazed state of Indiana before moving to Wisconsin, where she would attend basketball camps ran by former University of Wisconsin and D3 legendary Wisconsin Platteville coach Bo Ryan. Even though she reached the pinnacle as a coach and had incredible success as a player in college, she thought she was going to follow in tennis legend Chris Evert's footsteps. She also dreamed about being an astronaut as a kid. She has 3 beautiful children, including a twin boy and girl, and her husband, Tom, who coached college ball for 34 years, is, among other things, Mr. Mom. She played her college ball at Purdue and Marquette and made 4 consecutive trips to the NCAA tournament, including a trip to the Final Four in 1994 while at Purdue. And her coach at Marquette once asked her, "Why do you practice shooting so much if you're going to pass up so many shots?" She has a mechanical engineering degree and graduated cum laude. She played 1 year in Greece professionally before coming back to the States and coaching college ball for 15 years before moving on to the WNBA as an assistant with the Connecticut Sun in 2015. She's been the head coach for the Dream for 3 years, and in 2019 was named WNBA Coach of the Year. She demands of herself and her Dream team to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. You can find her on Instagram at Coach Nicki C and on Twitter at Nicki Collen, and of course on the Atlanta Dreams website at dream.wnba.com. Coach, we're truly honored that you're joining us today here in the Sports Deli.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Holy cow, I guess you did your research on me. So
Well,
trip
they
down
make
memory lane there.
it. That's right. Time flies when you're having fun, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, Coach, we can't thank you enough for sticking around for another couple of segments here in the Sports Deli. For those of you that didn't listen to part 1 yet with Nicki Collen, who's joining us here today, head coach of the WNBA's Atlanta Dream, we encourage you to do so. It was an amazing interview. Thank you so much for joining us. We're honored that you're here sharing space with us. So again, grab your favorite deli sandwich or your favorite bagel and your favorite beverage, and let's do this together right here in the Sports Deli. So I want to ask you, and when we talk about this conversation from typically John and I talk about this from a white Jewish perspective, it's important, I think, that we think it's a big white issue now. The Black Lives Matter movement, and what I have said a lot are 2 things. One, that the power of 180 women, not including the coaches and the coaching staff, and most of the administrations of the WNBA franchises, but the power of what 180 women did when Warnock was polling at 9%, and the decision that the sisterhood, and the coaches did to come together and your situation there was probably tough, right? You're caught between a rock and a hard place, and you're obviously going to support the right thing. You want to be on the right side of history, and it's unfortunate. But honestly, as much as people bash Kelly all the time and things like that, I bash Tom Brady a lot for a different reason, because I feel like he's got a platform. There's not one white male in the United States besides the 45th president at the time who could speak out against this, because the reality is that a lot of white people listen to white people, and a lot of the Black and brown communities still only listen to the Black and brown communities. And so I found it fascinating, and I hope Kelly comes to some revelation at some point and finds some middle ground, because it's disheartening to me when something's not a political issue, that you can say some of the things or not be supportive of anything that marginalizes any group of people, whether it's Islamophobia or Hispanics or women and men of color, and we still see it with high school announcers making comments and blaming it on diabetes, and
Yeah.
all the way up to the highest level with NBA players making comments playing video games. And so, we're not going to fix this in one summer because of a movement, but the conversation has to continue, and it can't be because somebody else dies that we continue the conversation again. So what did the summer teach you? Obviously, beyond the obvious, to how much more sensitive we are because of the stories, and why was it so different this time versus Rodney King or Watts or the other things? Because people have been killed and jailed for things that they shouldn't be in jail for a long time, but something changed this summer.
I think we all watched it. I think that was the biggest change. We watched it. We all watched that video and heard him say, like, I can't breathe, and saw the knee on the neck. And it's like, if that didn't you know challenge the way you thought about things, And I think we're still living in a time where we're talking about, well, what does the autopsy say? To me, it doesn't matter what the autopsy says. We saw it. We saw it was wrong. And so I think that was the flame, that just, ignited people. And I think the challenge to white America, to be an ally, but to really be almost more than an ally. And I think that it was even playing this season, like I remember, I think it was the AJC here calling me, when they announced the schedule for the season, or announced that we were going to have a bubble season and all of that. And I said, it's just a really weird time. I said, because there's part of me, the basketball coach in me is like, all I want to do is coach. It's like, you told me there's a season. I don't care what planet we're playing on. Like,
Yeah.
yes, I'm excited. Like, of course I'm excited. I said, but I'm also sensitive to what's going on in terms of, we've got a pandemic going on, and we have a racial pandemic going on. We have so much going on that's so emotional and touching so many people, that I almost feel guilty saying, yeah, let's go play basketball. I said, but if I don't, then I'm not being truthful and saying, like, this is something I'm passionate about. And I think the beauty of our league is the players that didn't opt out and made the decision to go to the bubble. They did it with real intent. Of course they wanted to get their paycheck. Of course, like, this is their livelihood. But I think they went with a bigger purpose. And they in the midst of playing every other day, they still managed to stay connected. They still managed to, with the leadership of the executive committee, which Elizabeth Williams on my team was a part of. And, they made real change, and they gave, I remember sitting in a Zoom call with, our team psychologist, having these conversations as a team in terms of how they wanted to talk about, what Kelly had said, and how hurtful it was. And, I just, like, I had so much pride in the classiness, in which they took. They just took the high road. They said their piece, but they said it in a way where they didn't, call people names, or, they just said, this is what we believe, and this is who we are, and this is what we're fighting for. And this isn't a political statement. It's about human lives. And so, when we break it down to, it's about, humans and